So, the future is actually plasma. It's being able to
Hmm.
use plasma technology, mineral blueprinting, and then water activation. So that's the next phase, in the business is not
Yeah.
just being a bottled water brand, but being a water technology platform, whether it comes to water and, filterless purification and energization and recycling of water to, quantum computers and plasma computing to, complete wellness environments. Like it's incredible, what the future looks like, in relation to plasma and water.
All right, we are officially rolling, brother. Welcome. Thank you for beaming in. E-
Thank you. It's awesome to be here.
Everyone, this is Sturt Hinton, and we're going to have a very, very interesting conversation about, well, the memory of water, about how incredible this part of our physiology and life everywhere is not talked about, and what Sturt has been doing with the knowledge that he has gained, and it's just buckle up. It's going to be a very, very interesting conversation, especially if you are interested in biology and frequency and health and happiness. Yeah, it's all there in a bottle. Sturt, how did you like so this like lands near and dear to my heart. I have this water crystal tattoo that is inspired by Dr. Emoto's work.
Oh, yes.
Um, that comes from, like I made this amalgam of thank you and I love you, to make it symmetrical for the piece. And so I'm, Dr. Emoto's work. I'm a huge fan. And so what drew you to this? And, like, how did you come into? Well, I guess give everyone a little background first, and then tell me what sparked your interest into this.
Gosh, it's going back a while now. It's about going back around 12 years ago. And I too was inspired by Dr. Emoto, and, quantum science. And I've always loved water and was just inspired as like it was like a godlike substance. And, I had been going through a bit of a rough time and I was, meditating a lot on how I can use my special skills and talents to help more people and be of greater service to the world. And because I was looking for that next direction in life, that's a good place to be. It can be hard at the time, but
Mm,
it was a good place to be. And I love water, and I love quantum physics, and I was I ran into Emoto's work on the effects of consciousness of water, and I was aware of the power of structured water. The negative charge and what it could do to plant growth, and um, I was aware that that water could take on frequency information as well. And I had this thought that if I could structure really good water, with vortexes and give it a negative charge, and then give it sound and light therapy, then I would be
mm.
able to drink the healing benefits, of that frequency. And it was a bit wild, obviously, at the time. Well, it still is today. It's a
How
little.
what year? How what year was that when you
That
when
was
you
in
started to?
2014, 2000,
Okay, okay.
2015. Yeah, so, I went on this, I was just so inspired by this concept. It just overtook me. And, I traveled the whole of Australia looking for an amazing water source and, a facility that would work with me because the concept was so
I
wild.
bet.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have been in on some of those conversations.
Yeah. And yeah, so I finally found a place to be able to create it. And I did so, but by the time I got there, I only had enough to be able to buy, like, to produce a few boxes of water and buy a plane ticket to
Right.
Sydney, to be able to start selling it. And that was how Frequency H2O was born.
So how did you, when you began to work on the water, to experiment with the water, what did you, and maybe hopefully it's not too much of a trademark secret for, obviously, but, for everyone who's maybe not familiar with Dr. Emoto's work,
Mhm.
what he did was essentially he wanted to see if water could retain like a memory of sort, and so he
Mhm.
would speak into the water, and and then he would flash freeze it.
Yeah.
And what he found was pretty just mind blowing to him, and I think to most people who come upon his work. So when he said the words "I love you" to the water, they took on this beautiful geometry, almost
Yeah, beautiful.
like reminiscent of a perfect snowflake. That just you just happen to capture. But when he said the words "I hate you," the
Yes.
water became completely dissonant.
Yeah.
There was no geometry to it. I mean, it looked like, for lack of a better way to describe it, like if someone just kind of spit a loogie, as
Yes.
opposed to this beautiful
Crystalline
geometrical,
structure. Yeah.
yeah, crystal, like this crystal, perfect crystal.
Yeah.
And he began to experiment, with different feelings, words, prayers, to see how it affected the water.
Hmm.
And we everybody knows that our bodies are made up of, very very much a liquid substance.
It's
I don't.
yeah, 99% by molecular count. You're
Yeah.
99% water by molecular count, which is just extraordinary. We are, a water being, and that the water in us is, this it's a receiver, of information,
Hmm.
from our environment,
That's
forces
right.
that we can't see, but our body absolutely does.
And then remember that environment is both external and it's created internally. So we have two ways to affect our biology with this knowledge, and of course, then it begs the question. The implications are, well, what are you listening to?
Yeah.
How do you talk to yourself?
Yeah.
What are you drinking?
Yes.
Like all these things then start to, you start to put pieces of the puzzle together, and you start to look at illness in America, and it becomes very clear why, well, among a thousand other reasons, people are not healthy. They're having trouble maintaining even like the most basic homeostasis of,
Yeah.
of what you could call health.
Yeah.
So when I see someone who has taken the path that you have, and then contributed in the way you had by creating this incredible product, I'm like, obviously very interested. And we're working with some of the same people at Spark, and I want to, you got to tell me, I want to hear all about how, because I know you just finished shooting
Yes.
some of the topics you guys covered, and I'm fascinated by it all.
Yeah.
Uh, but so frequency, as I understand it, you use the frequency of love on the water. Is
Yes.
that
Yeah,
accurate?
we do. That was the
Can
first
you
one.
talk about how talk about that process, how you did that, and what the water, like what that was like for the water and people drinking it?
It's actually really incredible. The frequency of love, is known for, the DNA repair, heart chakra. It gives beautiful geometry to water. There's lots of studies, where that people where they played the frequency, and it's helped people with ADHD, and
Hmm.
all sorts of markers, immeasurable markers have been improved through this tone frequency. Um, you know, um, Emoto's work used the actual 528 tone as well, and we replicated the beautiful crystalline structures. Um, so I thought, well, this should be in the drink. This should be in our drinking water.
Right,
If people are out there, they're buying, consumer water in bottles, which is just dead bulk water with no,
right,
it's like positively charged. It's like, there's no charge to it at all. It's just dead water, with no love, you know.
right, right.
So,
Unless you were to bring that water to, I don't
yeah,
know, a monastery in Tibet and have the monks work it over. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's unstructured. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So, look, I put the water, found this amazing water, put it through a kinetic process, multiple vortex to give it a negative charge, and, reduce its surface tension, make it more hydrating. It also like neutralizes all this the flavor of the taste of the water. It gives it a
Hmm.
wonderful feeling. And then I infuse it with the frequency. So started with love, and long story short, that water won the best water tasting water in the whole world. you know?
That's right. What tell everyone about the the contest you entered it into, a very prestigious water contest, which is the winner is the water that tastes the
The best.
best,
Yeah.
essentially, which is a
Yeah.
great litmus.
Yeah.
And you and like what was the name of that one?
The
And
Berkeley Springs Award.
the Berkeley Springs Award. That's
Yeah,
right.
we're in the
And
USA.
how
So
many
all
competitors typically throw their
hundreds,
hat in the ring?
hundreds. You
Wow.
know, Frequency H2O beat out a bottled water that costs $100 a bottle, and the water is actually chipped off icebergs.
Wow.
Yes. Funnily and not funnily enough, but that's also to a structured water because when ice melts, you get
Mm,
structured water
yeah.
because ice is structured. So, that could have won as well, but I guess it didn't have any love in it, you know?
Yeah. Love adds flavor to everything. I
Love
mean,
wins.
it
Love
does.
wins. So it was actually quite remarkable to hear them on the judging panel, from Australia, love
Oh,
frequency
I bet.
H2O, and it was just wild, to think that something so, out of the box for the mainstream could be, it's really
Yeah.
was the underdog, people,
Oh, yeah.
just wanted to see it fail, really.
Yeah, they were like, "Who's this guy selling? He's selling love in a bottle."
Yeah.
No, really.
Snake oil.
Yeah. It's that's amazing, man. I couldn't imagine. I can't imagine because I'm sure you probably thought, well, they're not going. Are they going to really vote for this bottle? They're going to think it's total woo woo and
Yeah.
not going to believe the science behind it. But if they voted on taste, I guess at least they were honest.
Yes. Well, I couldn't, I was I had so much faith that it was going to succeed. There's so much good, it came from such a great place of intention,
Yeah.
that it has to succeed. And so when I say I was skint at the start, to manufacture and distributor, I only actually could produce one box of water, and I put that pretty much in a backpack, bought a plane ticket to Sydney, and started selling door to door on public transport.
Wow.
And I built the business, literally one store at a time, sampling door to door on public transport.
Wow.
So was a real grass movement, grassroots.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you decided on like for people who like go on YouTube and a lot of people have heard 528
yeah,
so oftentimes I'll download some ambient sound that has that frequency and I'll
yeah,
play it at night because it's very good for the body.
yes.
um 528 is a very it's like a hertz or you called it a what did you call it?
Tone?
Yeah, a tone.
Yeah,
I guess it's all of those things, right? I mean,
yes.
it can be a frequency. A frequency can be a tone. Um,
It's a
but
system thing.
yeah, sound frequency. So when you were experimenting, how did you get? So talk to me a little bit about like the negative. So you said you added a negative charge. I didn't realize that. Like, what does that do to the water? And you said most bottled water on the shelf is dead water and it's a positive charge. I don't. Can you explain that to me? Because I don't understand that exactly.
Yeah, sure. Well, a couple of things. It's a bit when our water behaves differently on with different surfaces, fundamentally speaking. There's many people don't know this, but they've actually discovered a fourth phase of water that Dr.
Mm,
You're aware of that? Dr. Gerald Pollack
yes.
from the
My
University.
God. Yes.
So it's called EZ water, exclusion zone water. And basically they discovered that when water came up across a hydrophilic surface, so a water loving surface, it ordered itself in this orderly fashion, right? All the water molecules, they ordered itself, and that ordered zone spread over a certain amount and it excluded any impurities. So they
Wow.
tested this by putting microspheres in the water, to pollute the water. And they put the water, they had it against a hydrophilic surface, and it just pushed those microspheres away. And you ended up with this section that was completely filtered water without using any filters.
Wow.
Right? And it also too, it took on the energy of the environment, the infrared energy, the light, right?
Wow.
And it gave it a negative charge. And so the water became like a battery. So you've got this negative charge and a positive charge, and orderly water molecules that then easily zip straight into your cell membranes, you
Mm.
know, and that allows, faster hydration, better cellular communication, mitochondria health, which produces its own water. And you can actually see, there's a thing called dark field microscopy, and it's basically live blood testing, and, with our environment, all this sound, light, frequency, vibration that we experience in our environment, is actually really detrimental, not only to
Mm.
water in our body, but to our blood, you know what I mean? And you can see it under
Yeah.
under a live blood test. You'll find that you have, clumped up red blood cells. There'll be, funny shapes. They just, they lose their energy and their light to them because there's
Hmm.
this aura around them.
Mm.
Um, and then when you drink actually structured water or water that has a negative charge, instantly you can see all the cells straight away. They become brighter. They become more uniform in their circularity, or, not sure if
Mm.
that's the right word. They get more space around them, so they get more oxygenated. Lots of things happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Um,
So
so
yeah,
it's almost like you're, it's like you're running a current through the body that is reminding it how it's supposed to be functioning, as opposed to the bombardment that it receives in this, kind of environment that we're all living in, with society and signals and news and
yeah.
negativity,
Yeah, bad light, bad lighting,
bad
like
LED, yep, lighting everywhere that is not.
too bright as
Mm.
well. Yeah, TV screens, electric cars, just 5G, it's
Yeah.
all here, these invisible force sources we can't see, but our body absolutely can.
Yeah. And our body's responding to it. This is what people need to realize, is like, just because you can't see it doesn't mean you're not being subjected to it. It's you can't see the cold either, but if you stay out in it long enough, you'll freeze to death.
That's a
you
really
know.
good analogy.
This is the world we live in. I mean, unless you're really kind of in Montana, or, you got a place that's really off the grid, you're really being subject to it.
Yeah.
Um, and there's been a lot of talk about water in America because, thanks to Bobby Kennedy Jr., he has managed to push forward at least some legislation that's going to remove the fluoride. And I think Australia is one of the other countries that took on this incredibly fraudulent, science of, let's add fluoride to the water. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah.
How do you filter for, because I know you use natural springs, right?
Mhm.
But how, like, even natural springs, of course, be due to the amount of stuff that we are putting into the ground and then into the air, into the oceans. How is like filtering a big priority for you before you end up infusing it with the frequency?
Well, actually, this doesn't need filtering because it's in Australia, such a big place, and I'm
Mm.
way up in far north Queensland. And it comes from an aquifer which is deep within the ground, that takes hundreds of years to get there. And
Yeah.
this particular water, it's so pristine, that it really requires no filtration at all. So it doesn't have to be. It
Wow.
does go through a UV filter, like, which is a
Mm.
light filter before it goes through frequency filter activation. And that's another way that we know that water responds to sound and light and frequency, because they use in industrial processes light to chemically cleanse water, as
Mm.
well, of any impurities. Yes.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say that because for me, it's wonderful to be able to have a spring water, but that's not the future. The
Yeah.
future is actually being able to create the perfect mineral blueprint for cellular hydration. One that's really
Mm.
going to, help increase energy production and cellular communication. So, really good sodium and, magnesium to keep it chill, and silica and potassium,
Mm-hmm.
they're all the minerals that you need, because being electric beings, it needs that conductivity.
Mm-hmm.
So, the future is actually plasma, it's being able to
Mm-hmm.
use plasma technology, mineral blueprinting, and then water activation, so that's the next phase, in the business, is not
Yeah.
just being a bottled water brand, but being a water technology platform.
Yeah. I love the sound of that. I feel like there's incredible advances being made on plasma and
Yeah.
these kind of physics. And I just read that this astrophysicist, 63, 62, was on a hike by his house in, I think, New Mexico, and was found shot dead, was found murdered.
Oh,
And
yeah.
this on the heels of that younger MIT scientist who
Mhm.
also was supposed to be, just off the charts with the
Mhm.
work he was doing, involving plasma,
Yeah.
involving these kind of physics, and it just makes you have to wonder, what is there that they're keeping, because if they're knocking people off, like this and like that, the MIT was as gross and obscene as this guy being gunned down on the same trail he's been taking for, however long he's lived at his place, and nothing was taken from him. So he was clearly not, he was executed.
Yeah.
Um, must mean that whatever that is a huge threat to probably more than one industry, or they wouldn't be risking and knocking off some of the greatest minds walking the planet to protect themselves. And I'm so sure it's health. I'm sure it's technology. It's just crazy. But they can't keep the rabbit in the hat forever. That's the good
Yes.
news.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, well, the
but
technologies of the future are definitely plasma based, whether it comes to water and, filterless purification and energization and recycling of water, to, quantum computers and plasma computing, to, complete wellness environments. Like, it's incredible, what the future looks like, in relation to, plasma and water.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny, people think of plasma. I don't know. I think plasma is still so, underrated, undereducated, and people aren't really sure what it is. It's not. I think it's deliberately being, like, what's the word? Obfuscated, in our education, in our universities, because they don't. I think that they have peaked at what those advancements may bring, and the level, detriment to their control monopolies they have in place, that it would,
Yeah.
because it's wild, and I don't claim to be very well educated myself. I'm pretty ignorant when it comes to plasma as well, but I did learn about the fourth phase of water and some of these things, and I'm just like trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together as always. But it is the future, man.
Yeah, I think it's the fourth phase matter. It's another form
Fourth,
of
yeah.
matter, plasma, and it's ionized gas. And you just basically have heated up air, and you have all these free electrons, and it's really quite remarkable. When it comes into contact with water, you know. We can have polluted water. We have a big PFAS problem, in the world right now. All these
Hmm.
carcinogenic toxins in our waterways and whatnot. And it's really hard to get rid of, you know what I mean? Like carbon filters, reverse osmosis, like they're so bad, so hard to get rid of this toxic element that they've put in our environment. But when plasma comes into contact with water, this thing that we can't explain happens. It actually it breaks apart any chemical bonds in the water that aren't water. So if you have, pharmaceuticals in there, it basically just blows them apart, and it's basically, you have no more PFAS in there, and you can drink
Wow.
it, and like the chemical composition of whatever's in there has completely changed. So it makes it inert, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea that it was that powerful. So for everyone, when he says the PFAS, that's the acronym for the forever
Chemical.
chemicals, which come from long-standing chemical companies such as DuPont, who took what they learned in their vats and experimentation for the war,
Hmm.
and we're like, what are we going to do with all this stuff? We can't throw it away. That would be a waste of money.
Yeah.
Let's figure out a way to make it, market consumer friendly. And so they took
Mhm.
their poisons and their, potions. I think the forever chemicals came from, they were trying to make metal impervious to, different kinds of blunt force trauma and military grade fire, which is how Teflon came about, and of course, after the war, they didn't stop. They just said, "Oh, here, we'll make your pots and pans. You can use them forever."
Yes.
They didn't tell anyone that Teflon, was made of these PFAS,
Yeah.
um, and the body cannot begin to deal with the chain molecule that is these forever chemicals. It's like a crazy 5-fluoride chain molecule. I'm not a molecular biochemical.
Yeah.
I didn't even get through the class,
The
but
whole
I,
thing.
I do know that about it. But the body can't break it down. That's what
No.
makes it so powerful. That's why they slip it into everything they can, because it makes it an incredible preservative. They put it but it's just everywhere now, and
Yeah.
it's air soluble. So the ones that are in the pesticides, they go into the ground, goes into the river, go into the ocean, ends up raining.
Mm.
It's a mess, and so um,
It's everywhere.
it is. And if you're drinking tap water in America, God help you.
It's in the bottled water too.
Yeah,
It's
they are. They're finding it there.
so hard to get out of, yeah, out of the water. It takes a lot of work, with
Yeah,
filtration systems, reverse osmosis, multiple stacks,
yeah.
but plasma does it all. You know what I mean? It just, that's so that yeah, that's the next evolution is being
I
able to.
didn't know. I didn't realize plasma did that. That's amazing.
It's incredible. It's going to revolutionize, everything about, our homes and water systems in the future, because we're heading towards like a decentralized water system. Like everything is becoming decentralized, and so people being, off grid producing their own water, not tapping into local infrastructures.
Hmm.
Atmospheric water, or, water purification in general is, going to be right at the top. You know, yeah, so it's really important technology, which people don't know that it's coming.
God, we can't get here soon enough.
Yeah.
Everything decentralized cannot arrive soon enough.
Yeah, and it's actually when also too it comes, not does it purify the water, so it self sanitizes, but it also adds nitrogen and oxygen species as well. So when you
Hmm.
spray it and when you water your garden with it, you don't need to add fertilizer, you know?
Oh my God! Wow,
Yes, yeah.
that's
So
amazing.
it has incredible implications for supply chains, on
Hmm.
farming, um,
No
being able,
wonder they're knocking people off left and right. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. The implications are immense
immense.
across the field, from everything. That's what I thought, from
Yeah, there's
agriculture to the
research
medical industry.
about getting rid of plaque in the brain, preventing
Wow.
Alzheimer's,
Yeah.
you know?
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, in answering your question, going back to it, how do we get fluoride out of it? Well, we didn't need to start. And then going forward, we've becoming a technology platform. So not just
Hmm.
it's really important to have something that's meaningfully sustainable. I
Yes.
don't want to keep taking from these aquifers, that are really amazing resources for the earth. We
Hmm.
need to be able to reuse what we have, and provide it. We can have the best water in the universe, but if we take it and we purify it, energize it, we put, our frequency, intention, quantum energy, scalar energy, all these different types of, um, you know, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, things that we can put into it.
So scalar energy is another fascinating topic. I had it's funny, my father developed a full body, pretty unbearable rash after the 2020 health debacle and the medical interventions that were suggested on people, and he was so. I mean, he couldn't. I mean, he saw every specialist on the East Coast. You know, he couldn't. I mean, he was miserable. And so I had a friend who recommended this wizard to me, who works with Scalar. And you know, my dad was so desperate at this point. I was like, Dad, just trust me, you know. So this guy, I'm not going to say his name because he very deliberately flies under the radar. He said, I just need 4 pictures of your dad, and he said, I need these poses. So I take him, I send it to him. Guy comes back with my dad's blood work.
Yeah.
Okay, matches the blood work the hospital gave him to the T. To the T. You know, I was like, holy shit. He was like, so I'm gonna, you know, I know what I can do. And I was like, okay, you know, like you just let me know how much I owe you at the end, because any relief for my old man at this point is going to be a win. It was like, you know, I don't know what he did, obviously he didn't get into it with me. He was very busy, and I was asking him to put my father in front of people who he was working with for a while, and but you know, like my dad got better. I don't know what this dude did from wherever the hell he was, using scalar energy and like I don't like medicine. I'm not. Talk to me about scalar energy and first in the context of how you use it, and then what you understand about it.
Well, when we're
Because
actually,
my dad got better. My dad, it was the first time he felt relief after like 8 months, and he was like so bad that he was like, I'm ready to fucking just blow my brains out. And I was like,
yeah,
don't do that, Dad.
I don't know.
You
I
know.
don't know if it was scalar energy that, your father experienced, because that's usually think of it like a stereo energy field, when you've got
Mm,
magnetic electrical currents left and right, and then when they collide, that's in the center there. I understand that is the scalar energy there.
mm,
But what you're describing also sounds like quantum energy,
yeah,
where someone like an energy healing, where, and this is, not lots of amazing companies, but something like Lila Quantum. Have you heard of Lila Quantum?
oh yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, I'm very familiar with energy healings. Yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah,
they have developed something, sounds like similar, where, they can, identify someone at a distance and be able to, beam them quantum energy, and they get an
yeah.
upgrade.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I know all about it.
yeah.
I'm part of a community that does this pretty regularly, and the results are, no one would believe the results.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're all connected. We're all connected,
yeah,
and so energy healing is it's just tapping into that, universal energy,
it's
we're
powerful.
connecting right now. And when we put the intention, to each other, about supporting your health and well-being and
Hmm.
sending love, and being grateful and appreciation, to that person, like, your physiology changes,
Yep.
just in a way that you can't see. So that may have been, what's happened. That's how energy healers work. It's from my
Yeah.
understanding, anyway. Because I might be completely ignorant here. I might make a
Well, no, I know
yeah,
I know exactly what you're referring to. This seemed like something different. You know, that, like the analysis of the blood that he
yeah,
gave, like, I'm part of groups, and we know how to, because we were taught, how to open up this energy center, the heart, and get really present in the body, you know feel into that incredibly strong universal power that is love, that is gratitude,
mhm,
and then know that you are absolutely born able to then point that energy wherever you want to point it, to whoever you want to point it, and that energy enters their field. Doesn't matter where they are on this planet or the next,
mhm,
because we are all connected, and consciousness is non-local. And if consciousness is non-local, that means that everything that comes from it is also non-local. So when you're using what I think is the most powerful force in the universe, and that what you're doing, I mean, if Jesus lived and did those miracles, that's how he did them.
yes,
He knew he knew what he could do. There was never a doubt in his mind.
Yes.
And the more you realize that, the more you can do with this energy. And I've seen incredible things happen. And and it's not, you just learn to open yourself up to source, to God, to the universe, to whatever you want to call it. You're not doing anything except becoming like a sliding board for this energy,
Yeah.
becoming as good a sliding board as you can, and
Hmm.
then getting the hell out of the way and pointing it wherever it needs to go.
Mm.
That's how these healings, if I could describe them in a couple of sentences, that's how the best of them are. You leave your ego at the door and
Hmm.
just let love come through, and then focus it, and it's powerful, and you can
Mm.
do so much with it. But this dude was doing something a little different. Like even my friend was trying to describe him to me, and I was like, wait, what? What? Like, so, and they don't talk about it, but the work they do is incredible. So much that he's got to hide from the FDA in America, and I mean,
Mm.
not the FDA, the medical people, because he's helped a lot of people doing this, and he doesn't need to see them. He just gets their picture and goes to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like reverse
It's
voodoo, or
incredible. I've met, a number of people, and my sister has an incredible talent of being able to, as an energy healer as well, that,
wow.
yeah, it's an amazing field that I don't quite, need to, I don't quite understand, but definitely, on that path of discovery,
Hmm.
a daily practice of going in to, to go out and being,
Yeah.
yeah, at one,
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
And
Use the ball.
there's a coherence, and this
Yes.
ties directly into what you do with your water.
Yes.
You're creating a coherent state, and when you can sync up the mind and the heart in this what they call a heart coherence.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
If you look at the geometry of the blood beating in your veins,
Mhm.
when you can create this feeling in yourself, you would be like, oh my God, that's somebody should make a painting of that. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And your whole body becomes in sync with this gorgeous heartbeat rhythm of spectacular geometry that looks a lot like this, tattoo.
Yes.
Crazy enough, it begins to take this shape,
Yes.
and it's like any laser that you focus, it becomes more powerful, right? So that it's the same concept. And that's kind of what you're doing to your water when you're infusing it with that frequency of love.
Mm.
Uh,
But
you know,
yes.
it's amazing.
Yeah, and it works in a number of ways. Not only has it been activated with the frequency of 528 hertz, but it says it on the bottle as well. So
Mm,
it's multifaceted. And also too, it's the intention,
yeah.
behind it's the intention behind what you're doing. That's something that Emoto discovered, that, you can project something onto it, but it's about the intention behind
Oh
the
yeah.
action. That's what the quantum field picks up. You can't trick the quantum field.
No, you can't. You can't. And for people who are listening who are skeptics, just do the rice experiment. I think most people have heard of the rice experiment. I mean, I think it's like you just get 3 bags of rice off the same grocery shelf, make sure they're dated the same.
Mm.
Put one bag in a bowl, one bag in another bowl, one bag in another one, and then seal them off in exactly the same way, all 3 bowls, right? Or Tupperware, whatever you want to put it in. And then every day you spend 10 minutes with one, and you just, however you need to see that bowl, to love on it, to send it love, to talk to it, tell
You
you
can
love it.
write,
Just
you can write like a little piece of paper and pull it up
you
there.
can write on it. The intention is powerful.
Mhm.
Then spend 10 minutes a day doing nothing to another, and then spend 10 minutes a day telling this third bowl about all your frustrations and how you feel about them. And watch what happens to each bowl. You're going to
You
see that.
actually do this experiment?
I've never done it, but I've seen it done so many
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
I know it's legit because I know people who have done it.
Yes.
What will happen is the third bowl that you've been letting your negativity into is going to get
Moldy
moldy
ass.
much faster. Your middle bowl is going to be somewhere in between, and this bowl that you've been loving on is going to be like like new 2 weeks
Yeah.
later. I mean,
Right.
and if, just go ahead and try it. If you think that intention is not that powerful, it's an
Mm.
easy experiment to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
The rice experiment.
we started with the love, and
Hmm.
then I brought out a lunar frequency, which was 210.42 hertz,
Mm.
which was like a balancing, central, empowering frequency. And it's all about being able to, also to like celebrate the water,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
you know, yeah, to create engagement as well for consumers, and then we went from there to doing light activation. So we have a rainbow frequency water as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Um, so the lunar frequency
Mhm.
that you chose, what are the subtle? I'm sure there's a nuanced difference in the taste of the waters, like between one and the other. I'm sure you could can you can taste it, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, it was actually quite wild, because we started with Love, and
Hmm.
that was out for, quite a few months before I brought out a second SKU. And when I first received it, tasted it, I was like, this is different, It's like,
Yeah.
when I tried it, it's like, this is different. And it wasn't like the flavor, it was actually like the texture, it was almost like it was a bit thinner, you know,
Mm.
um, that somehow the frequencies had sort of um, you know, made the water, I don't know, like the molecules closer together or denser or something, because, the lava was so light, and thicker, and
Yeah.
the Luna was it was completely different. It was a complete trip,
Wow.
or, yeah, that was a really incredible experience, actually.
What are you contemplating and or experimenting with any other tones, frequencies, or light variations to continue to expand?
I think that, definitely, in the 660 nanometer range, which is the red light, uh,
Mm.
which would be amazing, because there's technologies out there that they're using that frequency in water now. They're revitalizing water with that frequency, and then they're applying it to wounds and whatnot, and they're getting, incredible results on, improved healing, 30%, 50% faster healing.
Wow.
Um, the future's incredible when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to light and sound, and
Yep.
with this show that I'm hosting, Find My Frequency, I'm interviewing top doctors, scientists, innovators, even like musicians and celebrities, even, who are on this frequency train. And, there's just so much that's coming to market, that's
Yeah.
proving that.
Tell everyone the name of the show again so they can keep an eye on it when it comes out on Spark. And tell me a little bit about some of the interviews that because you just finished doing them, I know.
We've got
So
one
there's still
more next week.
one more next week.
Yeah, Robert Edward Grant next week.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm a
Yeah,
fan. That
yeah,
would be a very
yes.
interesting conversation.
Well, he's extraordinary. It's a bit
Oh
intimidating.
yeah,
He's so
yeah.
intelligent.
I know he's super fucking smart.
He's
He,
he's actually one of the smartest people on the planet.
definitely.
His
Yeah.
recent theory on he did a paper on the harmonic universe. And
Hmm.
basically through his theories have, you know, proven, I suppose, um, that there's no such thing as numbers, that it's all harmonics, it's
Yeah.
all ratios, and that's true from what we see. Our heartbeat is a rhythm, our brain waves are a rhythm, the sun is a rhythm,
The ocean, the
ocean,
earth. Yeah. Yeah.
everything works in rhythms, and how that, translates into how we interpret reality, it could flip things on a dime, with science, so it's really
Yeah.
amazing. I'm a bit intimidated to sit down with him, but excited.
Yeah. Um, just as long as you don't have a math competition with him, you should be fine. No, but I mean, his understanding of music, and he's a polymath and he's a
Yeah.
genius, and
Mm.
he just continues to expand his understanding of everything,
Yeah.
and so he's incredible to talk to, and he's so well versed on like both ancient civilizations and some of the most like like Da Vinci's Last Supper, you know,
Yeah.
he'll explain to you what about it, how it directly relates to the Great Pyramids, you know, and you're like, wow, what? Never would have thought of that. You know what I mean? Um, it's wild, you know, when people like that put their minds to all these different things, you know,
Hmm.
that's when we get real breakthroughs. The
Yeah.
problem you know, that society faces, particularly in the West, I think, is they force you to, you know, you're going to be an archaeologist, but then you got to study this archaeology and that's it. You know, don't go outside your box. Meanwhile, I think every great innovation has come about because someone has seen something from a different perspective and put two and two together in a way no one did before,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's great. It's amazing.
Mm. Well, you know,
Yeah.
I think it was Einstein that said that once we start studying, you know, the unseen, we'll have more progress, you know, as a
Oh yeah.
civilization in a couple of years than we've had in thousands of years, you know, and that's the way that we're looking at now. You know, you know, hopefully going to happen because we're going to film some more shows because there's just so many people to speak to. But you know, there's
Yeah.
an amazing company that's come out of MIT, which are using 40 hertz gamma to prevent Alzheimer's.
Wow.
You know, they're using you know, sound and light, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to, you know, measurably reduce, you know, the risk factors and you know,
Mm.
the what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, so they reduce, you know, their Alzheimer's.
Right.
I met yesterday Don Estes. You know, have you heard of Don Estes?
Sounds a little familiar.
Don Estes, he is a dude, man. He's an older gentleman. He's had about 40 years of, you know, cutting edge neuroscience in energy, frequency, sound, light
Wow.
technologies, and he's invented some of the most cutting edge devices, you know, that have helped people with PSTD. He can replicate psychedelic trips, you know, with
Wow.
you know, his light technology. Um, you know, they've because everything that we interpret about the world, okay, is actually all sound and light, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so everything is a frequency, you know, and he's through years of work, you know, he's found ways to be able um, to translate that into technologies that, you know, that heal people. It's amazing.
Mm.
You turn sound into light and project it into your eyes so you hear it with light,
Wow.
you know, and it's that type of neural feedback has helped people with severe trauma, you know.
Yeah.
There's you know, he's invented water technology. He's, you know, vibroacoustic beds that,
Wow.
you know, incredible stuff. You know, amazing
Yeah.
technology. So I got to sit down.
Who else did you talk to?
I had a actually great chat yesterday with Lincoln Jezza as well, he's an artist. He's a producer artist, DJ, and
Oh,
he
cool.
yeah. So he's got a thing called Healing House, and he
Nice.
embeds these different chakra frequencies and tones into house music, and has healing house dance parties. You know,
That's amazing. I feel like house parties are healing anyway, but yeah, no, that's good thinking.
yeah, well, yeah, so house music parties, and he's traveling the world. He's got a massive following of, you know, over 500,000 people and putting out
Wow.
albums and whatnot. And you know, and you know, it all makes sense, you know, like
Mm.
him tuning the music and then also to the light, you know, and lifting the
Yeah,
vibe, you know, that, you know, we can create, you know, a fun, you know,
absolutely.
healthy environment, you know, for ourselves, you know. So he was fun to sit down with. Also to Michael Scala from the EE system, which is a phenomenon. You know, his mother, Dr. Sandra Rose Michael, I should say, has been working for since 1979 on developing their system, the EE system, which is a scalar energy field and
Wow.
combines scalar energy with biophotonics, you know,
Okay.
to create a room, a space, you know, to bring the body back to homeostasis.
Right.
Um, that was a really interesting meeting. I met with Geraldine Glass, who is a world-class a soprano singer
Oh,
who
wow.
yeah, got into sound healing, and she's working also too with some recording artists and hospitals and
That's
uh,
awesome.
yeah, amazing people. Michelle Burke, who is also to get another perspective of someone who's a celebrity sound healer, like celebrity culture. I want to discuss the
Right.
culture in frequency. Um, she was amazing to sit down to, and she has a technique that she uses called heart math, where
I know heart math. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so being able to go from a stressed out state to a chilled out state, and then measure,
Mm.
the biofeedback to show a measurable,
Oh, yeah. It's
reduction in
huge.
stress, and so really cool conversations with people.
That's awesome. Being able to regulate your heart rate. They when you go into training for like really high pressure jobs, especially if you're working for a government agency, one of the things they'll train you for is how to control your heart rate. And the people who can do it the best, they get the most crazy jobs,
Wow,
because they need to be able
I
to,
can go there.
but listen, I know about this experiment they did with these cops, like, so I don't know if it was through heart math or what, but Greg Braden told me about it. He said, they took a bunch of cops, because a cop has to deal with his adrenaline glands probably on the daily, unless they're in a real small town and it's just not very active. But every time you pull someone over, no matter how many times you do it, you still got to be ready. You never know who you've pulled over, and so they measured all these cops' heart rates, and they noticed that, after an incident such as a speeding ticket or something maybe even more intense, their heart rate was elevated and their stress levels, the cortisol levels, everything was elevated for like 5, 6, 7 hours, depending on the intensity of the incident. And so they were like, that's not healthy. That's not healthy, too, because the event happened and then, but there was no return to that homeostasis. And so they taught these cops this like 5 minute heart meditation to bring themselves back into kind of an equilibrium, and a balanced state. And they found that, within an hour after that incident, all their levels were back to normal. They were just another day. And that's a much healthier life than spending 6, 7, 8 hours in a state of, mild to, real stress, depending on what you just happened. So it's like it's an incredible skill set to acquire, and it'll make you live longer. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's actually super simple, to these ideas, but a lot of people, they're so caught up, in
Yeah.
addiction stress,
Oh, chemicals of stress are so addicting. People
yeah,
don't realize they're addicted to them,
you
because
know,
they don't realize that every biochemical feedback that goes on in the body, including that one that happens when you snort heroin, is still just that. It's a feedback. It's a set of, firing and catalysts that happen in the body, and the body can get so acclimated to doing something like stressing out every day
yes,
for whatever reason that you can become very addicted to stress, to rage. I mean, I guess rage is more obvious because it's such a huge emotion, but I think a lot of people have known or even been raised by a rageaholic. You know what a rageaholic is, they find a reason every day to hit that damn adrenal button so that they can, let someone or something have it. But yeah, it's people don't realize that those things are subconscious,
mm,
and they're pervasive and they're addictive, just like any addict. It's going to happen. They're going to find a way to get to it, one way or the other.
yeah. And you
It's
can tell
wild.
someone who's a highly stressed person, you can sit with them and, just have a chat with them about, with your own personal experience with like, because my personal experience is like, just like taking a few intentional breaths can just like completely change the outcome of the
Mm,
situation, you know.
yeah.
And you try and explain to that to someone who's stressed, and I say, "Fuck off, mate. I know how to breathe."
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's like talking to a child in a tantrum. There's just, you can't, logic isn't going to work. You're going to,
Yeah.
they're just going to get angrier. Um, But yeah, no, it's something that I talk about and a lot is, the subconscious programs that we're all running, and like, are you aware of yours? And if you are, what are you learning about the programs you inherited from your parents, your guardians,
Mm,
your school, whoever spent the most time with you in the first 8 years of your life? That's who essentially did all your programming.
yeah,
Were they role modeling the best behavior for you? Because if they weren't, it may just be the reason why you're having so much fucking trouble right now with
yeah.
everything in your life. This is hard for people to, it's hard for people to make the correlation,
Well,
that,
yeah, you can't see what you're not
yeah,
aware of, can you?
yeah.
And I
You
guess
don't know what you don't know.
you don't know what you
That's the
don't know. The
paradox.
more you know, the less you know.
Yeah, that's right. Same paradox.
Yeah,
That's so um what's the name of the show again?
it's called Find My Frequency.
Find My Frequency. Nice.
Yeah, on
I love
Spotify.
it.
Yeah,
Great title. You
yeah,
know who you got? I was telling Serena, you got to talk to Veda Austin. She's
yeah.
super busy, but she's one of the people who are, have been on the front lines of this and continuing Dr. Emoto's work. And there's a lot of people who have, and it's
Mm,
more and more becoming well known now. But
yes.
yeah, she's one you definitely want to get a hold of. And another person who I've had on my show, who you may want to reach out to, is Alec Zeck. He's
Oh,
also
yes,
become he's got a great podcast called The Way Forward.
yes, yes.
Um, yeah, he loves talking about water. He's had a lot of people on his show talking about it too. He's very, very smart, very articulate, very down to earth,
Yeah.
incredible human being. Yeah,
Wow. Yeah, no,
very
definitely. I
cool.
had him on my list of, contacts I'd love to be able to connect with.
Cool.
Because it's an in-studio show, not everyone could come.
Hmm.
So we'll film more in the future and also test
Yeah.
it out, maybe do a podcast edition of it as well, so we can get more people from around the world. There's just so many amazing people who are doing incredible things in this space.
Yes. Yes. Right. Now more than ever, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool, man. Um, so when are we going to be able to? When am I going to be able to buy some water in the United States?
Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. Well, very soon, actually.
Yeah.
I've got meetings with manufacturers today um, in the US,
Nice.
looking at having one on either side of either coast, for easier distribution.
Right.
We've got some incredible collaborations to launch in North America.
Cool.
Yeah, so I would, we're planning on 2026 to launch it here. You know,
Nice.
whilst we work on this next evolution, which is water tech, personal um, water purification activation devices,
Mm.
water systems, um, commercial applications, programmable environments through frequency fog, you know,
Mm.
that use plasma activated water mist in greenhouses to be able to
Wow.
increase the nutrient density of reduced water consumption. Um,
That sounds amazing.
yeah, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible, having whole home systems that have, purified quantum enhanced water. So I'm going where people have been afraid to go, and I'm
Hmm.
really excited about that potential, yeah, some amazing partnerships coming up and at this next phase. Yeah.
Awesome, man. I'm excited. I really can't wait to. I was hoping to have you in, just with our schedules. We couldn't make it happen, but I was hoping to get you into to this studio and so you could bring me a bottle. But I'm looking forward to it becoming available here in the States, because I'm a big water, like, people stock their wine fridges with wine, and I stock mine with bottled water. I really look around for it's the best stuff I can find.
Yeah.
I'm
I
a
love
little
that
crazy
too.
like that.
I love that
Yeah.
too. You know, um, and spring water, pure spring water, I mean, it's nothing beats it, particularly if you can get one that has really high mineral content, really
Yeah.
lots of dissolved minerals in it. And a lot of waters are just about purity. They go, oh, I'm the purest water, but it doesn't have any minerals in it. So you've got to add electrolytes,
Right.
salt, sodium, whatnot. And as wonderful as that is, and definitely I'd love to collab, with some world-class springs in North America, but it's
Hmm.
about making a product which is meaningfully sustainable. I don't
Yeah.
want to, put another bottled water on, the shelf, which is just taking
Right.
the environment or polluting the environment in some way. So it's got to
Yeah.
be able to, it's packaging solutions, whether it's, there's a variant of cornstarch for biodegradable plastic or
Yeah.
aluminium, glass variants as well, bulk. Um,
Yeah.
and also too, as I said before, using, getting the absolute, getting the most purified water, using these next generation purification technologies, you know,
Hmm.
mineralizing them, vortexing them, getting that negative charge and then activating them, with these different technologies. So that is what Frequency H2O is going to be like in North America. That's what's happening here.
Nice. That's awesome. That's exciting. What did you think of, like, so there was a spell there where these hydrogen, they were selling these tubes that you put your water in and you press a button and apparently it hydrogenizes your water, which people were like, well, wait, what does that mean? Like, what do you know about that? Like, what did you think about that? Like, is that really effective? Because I've heard some people say, well, actually, those machines are, screwing the water up, and actually, no, these are great. I've been drinking them for a year. I feel great. Like, I never really learned enough about them.
Yeah, I look to be fair and honest, I haven't actually. I mean, I do know I've looked at some of the reports
Yeah.
on hydrogen water, and it's incredibly healthy for you, and it's an ionization process, is my understanding. Um, I'm not an expert, and I don't
Mm.
have a hydrogen water, and that's definitely a collaboration, in innovation and
Yeah, definitely.
I'm interested in, because whole home systems should have that option. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, but definitely hydrogen water. It's really good for you. The same way that structured water or vortex water pulls more oxygen into the water as well.
Yeah.
Higher levels of dissolved oxygen, and that's what plasma does as well. Pulls more oxygen in it, more activates nitrogen. Um, it's the same with hydrogen, but I'm not a hydrogen expert, unfortunately.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
gotta I gotta look into it more. Although it's with everything else going on, it's kind of faded a little bit. The buzz about it. People are more worried about World War III breaking out globally and all that jazz. But um,
Yeah, but
but
it's definitely it's a wonderful tool that
mm,
I recommend having in your toolkit.
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. Um, Sturt, one of these days we'll I'm sure I'm going to meet you at some point, and I look forward to trying the water. But tell everyone, where they can find you. If you live in Australia, you're lucky. You can probably already have or probably purchase this water. But the rest of us, I think, have to wait. But tell everyone where to find you, where they can follow your work and keep up with what's going on with you.
yeah, sure. So my at Frequency H2O and at Sturt STURT are my two ats across all socials, and we've at frequencyh2o.com.
Nice,
We are relaunching soon in Australia in a premium glass, premium packaging.
nice.
And then launching into North America with these amazing collaborations. I'm so excited to be able to share this with you guys.
Awesome, man. I'm excited. I'm really excited to try it. I'm a water freak. I order boxes from, like I'm always trying different off, like really kind of brands that most people have never. People are like, "What are you drinking?" I'm like, it's water. Believe it or not, I know the bottle looks crazy.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so I'm excited to try it, man. But listen, I think the work you're doing is so vital, like and important. And the more it can get out, the more we're going to affect the health of this planet. And a healthy planet is a happy planet. So,
Mhm.
it's great talking to you. I'm sure we're going to do it again once you guys get up and going here. We'll definitely reconvene because I need to try this water.
Yeah, everyone needs to have this water. You know,
Absolutely.
and I see it. The depth of vision is, it goes from a bottle to, environmental restoration and remediation. Like,
Yeah.
we all, you know, the planet. Water can heal the planet.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, just the same way it can, we can pollute water and make the planet sick, the same way we can heal it with the healthy water.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
But Stuart, it's been real, brother. I will. I'll reach out to you, let you know when we're going to put this out, so we can collaborate on the, make sure we get it in front of as many people as we can. But I appreciate your time, bro. I know how busy you are.
No, I've thoroughly enjoyed meeting you, mate. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to come on your show and meet you, and it's been lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Give my love to Serena and the whole gang,
Uh-huh.
and I will be in touch soon.
I look forward to it. Thanks, Fausti.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you.